Welcome to Media Kit. I don't want to be a hater, but I can only talk about things I've experienced. And what I've experienced lately is Remember Me, a 2013 game by Don't Nod Entertainment and published by Capcom. And holy crap, do people like this game! Okay, look, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm not saying that you suck because you like it. But I didn't. Here are 6 reasons Remember Me is great, and 13 reasons I hate it. The good. First, the world. I'm talking about the production design, the sets, the visuals, the colors, the animation, and the graphics. Love them. I'm a huge Deus Ex fan, and this world looks as good and maybe even better than the future tech in the last 2 Deus Ex games. Second positive, NILIN'S voice. Main character NILIN is voiced by Kezia Burrows, and she does a great job, giving NILIN emotional resonance and believability as a woman trying to function in a world she can't remember.
Why did our enemies erase my memory? Am I really that dangerous? The power to take what someone is, their memories, and bend them to my will.
Not so great? Edge, the disembodied voice that guides her through the levels.
You're a grade A hero, sis, I swear.
He sounds like a TV announcer, pitching, coming up after the break.
Here we have it. Reconversion, Scylla Cartier-Wells' grand project.
He's perfect for a commercial, but not someone going through an emotional journey with NILIN.
A society whose only goal is to forget its mistakes will not survive.
My parents created all this.
You're nothing like them, sis. And besides, I'm your true family, aren't I?
Yeah. We'll have to meet up when this is all over.
Are you two even in the same conversation? The game's score is excellent. It sounds cinematic and wouldn't be out of place in an action movie. It feels like a borrowed from a much better game. The costume design is just as good as the rest of the world. Clothing is futuristic but pragmatic. It also looks frickin' cool. Graphically, this game rocks. And the story. Personally, I don't get into stories much. If the gameplay is good, the story can be bad. I don't care. But how hard would it be to adapt Remember Me's story to film? Not hard. It would fit fine on the shelf next to Inception or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's a simple sci-fi mystery following a girl's struggle to get her memories back. Along the way, she meets family she didn't know she had, and eventually has to face off with an AI. Of course. But it's a good story. Okay, I'll get to my 6th positive in a bit. Here's why I hate it. I already mentioned the voice acting for Edge. Add to that, every time he talks,
Okay, NILIN.
NILIN loses her ability to run. She walks at a snail's pace until the conversation is over. And that wouldn't be so bad if I could skip cutscenes. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 5's cutscenes are ridiculously long, but I can skip them. But not Remember Me. Every cutscene has to play, in its entirety, every time. This game is super on rails. What's wrong with that? Well, nothing, I guess. I mean, Vanquish was pretty linear too. But in Remember Me, I spent a lot of time navigating corridors with no opposition. Like free roam, except there's nowhere to go but forward. Because this is not an open world, it's linear. Really linear. Usually I could tell when a fight was about to break out because I finally entered a large room. Otherwise it's a corridor walking simulator. When it's not a corridor walking simulator, it's a climbing simulator, which is somehow more rigid than the walking parts. A huge portion of this game is climbing, but there's no game to it. I can't choose where to climb. If I think something looks worth investigating, I have no choice but to ignore it because there are no options but to follow the orange indicator for where to climb next. This doesn't even qualify as a game mechanic. It's just following the indicator. And I need them too, because it looks like an open world. It feels like I can go anywhere until I try and find that everything is a wall, a literal one or an invisible one. So it's still easy to get lost, especially after a fight. The level design is so bad at indicating where I'm supposed to go, the game consistently provides the orange indicators so I know the one direction I can actually move to progress. There is nothing to explore in this game. Then there are the times that the orange indicators don't appear, and it's then that the AUG-EYE mechanic comes into play. An on-screen prompt that tells me to hit the designated AUG-EYE key, and hitting it, the camera conveniently focuses my attention on the direction I should go, because once again, it looks like an open world, but there's only one way to progress. Example, there's a section where I had to navigate a minefield while the game told me exactly where the mines were. Like, okay, how is this a game? I can't deactivate them, I can't use them. Now it's a minefield walking simulator. This could have been a good time to use her acrobatic abilities to jump away from triggered mines before they detonated. Or it could have been a place to have a fight where I could knock enemies into them or something. But no, this is the part of the game where NILIN creeps through a minefield of clearly visible mines. And the combat is weak. All attacks are punch or kick, mouse button 1 or 2. The one creative element to this game is the combat combos. For example, 3 consecutive punches is a combo. But in the combo lab, I can decide if punches 2 and 3 deal extra damage, heal me, recharge special abilities, etc. But the combo lab doesn't let me change the combos. It just lets me decide what the hits do. In my playthrough, I unlocked 4 combos, but only used the first 3, because once I start wailing on an opponent, I dominate. So, the game has to spice things up by adding killer robots and electrical enemies. Why? Because the actual combat is so simple. But this gets me to my last pro, NILIN'S evade maneuver. Any good brawler needs a good evasion maneuver, and Remember Me has one. In fights, it's easy to dominate an opponent, but it's also easy to get surrounded when there are 3 or 10. NILIN needs a way to separate herself and reposition in a brawl, and the way she cartwheels around by hitting WASD and space was my favorite game mechanic. So NILIN is really agile. She can flip over enemies in combat and leap across chasms between buildings. She can grab high ledges and pull herself up and leap between handholds. Unless that's not what the game wants her to do. She can't jump over a waist-high wall, or a floor mattress, or a broken android on the floor. Her best moves can't be accessed outside of combat, and she can't climb a stair step if that's not where the game wants her to go. Because NILIN can only go one way so often, the game is constantly taking control of the camera, forcing me to view the scene from a pre-designated perspective, returning control to me only after I've traversed its boring one-way path. It's jarring to have the camera control taken away so frequently. Even the final boss fight hijacks my camera. Despite being a linear game, it's made all the more frustrating by cutting off most backtracking options. Remember how awesome a climber NILIN is? Well, only until she reaches her goal. Try to go back and she can't grab a head-high rail. Many times I came to a fork in the road and had to choose carefully which way to go next.
You must choose.
Because one way would be short, usually leading to a power-up, and the other way would continue the story. But go too far, and I couldn't get back to see where the other avenue led. In the first section of the game there are no doors, so it's just a corridor walking sim. Then, early on, NILIN gets an arm cannon that basically shoots hacks, or code, or something. It has some use in fights, but programmers mostly justified its existence by placing barricades and doors in NILIN's way just so I could remove them with a zap. This is the worst. Here's an impossible barrier to your progress, and here's an impossible barrier solver. I mean, there's no challenge or game in it. It's just a bunch of obstacles and an obstacle remover. It is so lame. The final mechanic people seem to like is the part where NILIN hacks into people's memories and scrambles them so they remember events differently. These parts of the game are mandatory and occur exactly when the story says they will. They're a kind of puzzle to which there's only one right answer, and the game doesn't progress until it's solved. The manipulation of memories is basically a guessing game until the solution is stumbled upon. Or, I looked it up on the internet, because I was really running short on patience with this game. And the cherry on top, the final thing that makes me hate this game. Quick time events at the end of boss battles. I had to replay so many boss battles because I screwed up the quick time prompts during the cinematic takedown. By the end of the game, I hovered my fingers over the keys during the final cutscene just because I wasn't sure if the game was going to throw a last handful of QTEs at me. Screw you, game! So, the world is beautiful, the costumes are beautiful, the music is beautiful, her voice acting is beautiful,
And why not?
the story is interesting, and I love being able to cartwheel in a fight. but it's the most on-rails game I've ever played and extends that to the climbing. It's filled with roadblock activities with no challenge. It invents a whole new mechanic to open locked doors, or rather invents locked doors to give me something to do with my new magic arm. Prompts appear everywhere telling me where to go in the game with no directional options. A constantly hijacked camera, frequent backtracking impediments, unskippable cutscenes, bland combat, and freaking QTE. I hate You Remember Me. If you're a fan of this game, good for you. You're able to find the diamond in this game. And I'm glad all the hard work the devs put into this project paid off for someone. Thanks for watching.